Hello and welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm Ed Rabyd, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Like and share this video. Join the Rabyd Nation, a nation of people dedicated to normalizing atheism and deconversion by hitting that subscribe button. And if you want to support the channel in a more tangible way, hit the join button and your membership options that lead to citizenship in the Rabyd Nation will be presented to you. Today I'm closing out this series on deconstructing spiritual disciplines. And throughout this series, we've been, taking different spiritual disciplines based on Richard Foster's list of spiritual disciplines in his book, Celebration of Discipline. I used him because I'm well acquainted with him. He was a favorite of mine when I was a theist and, trying to build my personal relationship with God. And what I hope, I'm freewheeling a little bit more today because I want to speak more from the heart, because the idea of the spiritual atheist comes to mind, okay? And the thing about being an atheist and looking at spirituality, a lot of it is woo and nonsense. And so we kind of discount it. I know a lot of, but I know a lot of atheists just kind of shove that off and put that aside. But there's an aspect of being a human being with my fellow human beings, my expression of myself as a human being, my own internal struggles as a human being, that could be labeled spiritual, as in a growth, okay? The more intangible parts of who I am, my personality, my psychology, my mind, things like that. And the realization when you're deconverting that religion taps into something that's very human in all of us in order to sell its product. And once you begin to realize that that's what it's doing, it's okay to deconvert. You begin to find out that this is definitely a salesman tactic. And spiritual disciplines are stuff that the church, our religion kept us in the faith with, because it pushed us into that vein. Okay, it draws out something in us that's good. There's a longing to be a better person. There's a longing to be, something transforming, instead of just being stagnant. And I've often taken the criticism, for being a quote unquote more spiritual, and heavy air quotes there, atheist. Because I do get up in the morning and I sit and think and I meditate and I sometimes engage in the practice of doing a full body stretch and still meditating. I have borrowed like the 9 noble virtues of Asatru and said, taking out, the God's part, this is still pretty good stuff. And it's that aspect that I'm hoping that this series has taught you, is that there's something good in us that religion was drawing from. Because I've asked the questions, what is this spiritual discipline? Analyze it. Break it down, what is it? Because you're going to run into other spiritual disciplines in life. You're going to run into other religious practices that I haven't talked about. But I think the principles of this series, I hope, will help you in that you can say, okay, well, what is this thing actually doing? Okay, what is it doing? How is it tapping into people's humanity? Okay, into their social constructs and into this idea. And then how can we take the good parts of it, remove those from the woo and the unproven assertions and all this other stuff, and use it to benefit ourselves as we're growing as people. And I think that that's been my goal this whole time. We use the analogy constantly when we talk about deconversion of deconstructing our old life, pulling it apart. We have this old house that is no longer valuable to us, and we're breaking it down, we're tearing it apart, we're pulling the furniture that's useful out of it, pulling the appliances, whatever analogy you want to use in your brain, and we're moving to our new house of reason, skepticism, of being a good person, because it's beneficial to us and everybody else, and I don't need to appease a God to be a good person. And taking some of that stuff that a religion used to tap into and still keeping the principles, some of the principles behind that, because they're really human principles and they're really human ideas, and using them to build ourselves. And that's what this series has been about. One of the things that I have, and I think the analogy of continuing to, tear down our own house and build a new one is a good one. And some of these disciplines, you can pull over. You just got to get rid of the spiritual woo or the religious factors, and like meditation came right over. But prayer disappears almost entirely, other than self-talk. You also get, as we got farther into the disciplines, like being a serviceable person to other people, to taking some time to get away in solitude can be good and beneficial. Pulling away, corporately, asking people for help and celebrating life events are great, but worship, probably not. And it's a realization. I think the biggest thing for me when I was deconstructing is realizing I haven't lost everything. It's one of the things we sometimes we get into this emotional mode when we're deconverting. Man, I'm losing everything. Everything's going away. And I when I was first deconverting, I said that a lot about some of my practices. But then I began to realize that some of my spiritual practices weren't all that spiritual. Okay, they were just me being a human being trying to be a better human being. And then you also have other things that I was doing, like losing all my friends. But then I realized I lost a lot of friends when I left the ministry. A lot of ministry friends just stopped following me on Facebook, the whole 9 yards. There's still a few left. And there's still a few friendships that I discovered weren't based on any church thing anyway. So you begin to realize that in deconstructing and doing stuff like this, like looking at spiritual disciplines and moving it from one place to another, that you haven't lost everything. There's still lots of you as a person, your relationships, your desire to make a better world. I end my videos that way all the time for a reason, because there's very human things that these disciplines used to tap into that are still there. And you can still use them in your life to build something better and new. And it's learning to have this evaluative process for skepticism and then analysis and then reapplication of what you've learned into life that I hope I'm teaching, because for me it's been invaluable. Now, I'm no expert in deconversion. I'm no psychologist. I'm not anything. I'm a former pastor, a former Christian, a former guy that was very spiritual, who read his Bible every day, who prayed every day, who is now unconvinced of any of it, because the more I looked at it, the more unconvincing it became. And so I'm coming at this from a different perspective, in the sense that I had a whole bunch of my old life that it was discarded. And I don't get me wrong, as much as I've managed to hold on to, I would say 80% of it still disappeared. But the 20% kernel of being a thinking person, of desiring a better place for my kids and grandkids, of trying to be a better me, a better version of me every day. These are all things that I kept, and discovered that across cultures there's certain human virtues that people will always admire in people because they're virtues, and building those instead, has been very invaluable to me. And I hope they have been to you. And I'm just closing this series out because, I just want you to remember that throughout this journey with deconstructing spiritual disciplines, we managed to keep a few things, that not everything had to be thrown away. And I think that's an encouraging message to a lot of you, because when you first deconstruct, when you first come out of religion, you feel like you're losing everything. I lost my marriage. I lost a congregation of friends, okay, who I haven't seen since. Many of whom I haven't seen since. Some I have, and they've hugged my neck and everything else. But also on a personal level, I lost a lot of things, like an imaginary friend to pray to, an imaginary friend to worship, an imaginary friend to give service to. But I discovered that my humanity causes me to do that towards my fellow human beings. In some respects, I can serve them, I can get guidance from them, I can talk to them about things and get help. And I think that's been more beneficial to me in the long term. And I hope this series has been informative and helpful. So I'm going to kind of just close it out and say, keep doing what you're doing. Keep deconstructing the old life. And that's an ongoing process, just like reconstructing is an ongoing process. There will come a day, I hope, when I look back and I say, man, I'm not that same person anymore. All that religious stuff is pretty much gone, and I'm a new person. I hope that happens, but having been in it for so long, I know the struggle, the constant, well, why am I thinking this way? And realizing, that's because my indoctrination caused me to think this way, and now I'm trying to change it. And that's the issue. It's why I've been in therapy so long. It's why I've been, deconstructing so long. It's why I run this channel, because I want to normalize the whole deconversion process, that it's okay to deconvert, and people shouldn't be after you because you're doing it. And yes, being a spiritual atheist is a thing. If you put the spiritual in quotes and redefine what spirituality is, that it's just you trying to be a better human, you trying to be a more conscious human of what you're doing. That's okay. So thanks once again for those of you that have followed this series from beginning to end. Hopefully it's been helpful to you. I just want to thank you all for this series hasn't gotten the same kind of views, likes, and shares and subscribes as many of the other things I do on this channel. And I'm going to continue to do deconversion issues on Wednesdays, but we're heading into a different mode. And I just hope that you've gained and learned something from my journey and continue to do so as we continue to walk this together. Because I think it's going to be a lifelong walk right to the moment I walk into my grave, because religion has that kind of, tendril effect into every area of our life without us realizing it. So, just keep moving forward with that. But thank you all for every like, share, and subscribe on this series. I want to give a shout out to our members, to the members of the channel that you see on your screen right now. These are the people that make these videos worthwhile doing. I don't make as much money on deconversion videos, to be honest. And it's kind of like when Aaron Ross says he doesn't make as much money on scientific, educational videos that he does on the other ones. But same thing with deconversion compared to talking about atheism and God. And so these members are the ones that make that happen. I'm giving a little bit more longer time on the screen for that reason. Thank you very much. And as always, live your best life. You only get one go around, and then it's over. So make sure you're taking all your time, money, and opportunities as you deconstruct and reconstruct, to building up yourself, building up those you love and care for, and making this a better world. And don't waste them on the trappings of religion and faith, because that's a dead end. I speak from experience. You'll be much happier if you do. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you next time.